Hey, welcome to SI Now. It is Tuesday, May 23rd, and I'm Maggie.
And I'm Ryan Aselta. Hi to you, Maggie, and hi to everyone out there on Facebook watching us on Facebook Live today. On today's show, sounds like things are heading towards a bitter exit for ESPN's Mike and Mike. We're going to revisit our interviews with the duo. Plus, Peter King is back for the second straight day. We're going to find out who he thinks will be the best team in 2017.
Looking forward to that, but first, it's the Warriors. They have been indestructible through the postseason. So how does this version of Golden State compare to other great teams through NBA history? Watch this. Okay, Matt Dollinger here, the editor of The Crossover, had a couple data points there showing just how dominant the Warriors have been. But Matt, would you consider them one of the all-time great teams right now?
I'd consider them so far on pace to be the greatest team of all time.
Wow.
I don't think that they're just a collection of talent. Look at what Greg Popovich said after being swept last night. He said to call this a group of all-stars is just such an underestimate of what they really are. The chemistry, the way they move the ball. He said they're maybe the best defensive team he's ever seen, too. So I really think that, they're going to have to win a title this year to kind of cement that status. But in terms of one season, best team, I'd put the Warriors up top.
Okay, so if they lose the finals,
yeah,
does this change your mind?
That changes everything, yes.
Yeah.
Look at last year, with the historic regular season, nobody cares if you lose the finals. Everyone talks about blowing a 3-1 lead. No one talks about the regular season. I think the Warriors did themselves a favor not matching last year's regular season, but they've got the pressure on themselves once again with this undefeated run through the playoffs.
Sure.
So they've kind of put the onus back on themselves again.
Matt, we haven't seen this team tested yet. Some interesting numbers. 15 games, including the playoffs this year. That's the total of games decided by plus or minus 5 points or overtime for the Warriors. That's 15 out of 94 games this season.
Yeah.
So when it comes to crunch time, they haven't had a lot of situations where someone's got to take that final shot.
No.
Different dynamic. Durant and Curry on the floor.
Yeah.
Who is taking the final shot? Crunch time NBA Finals.
I genuinely don't think they even know yet. I really think that they, like you said, they have not been tested. They have not been under that playoff pressure to really find out. We saw them struggle with it a bit during the regular season. Durant and Curry, they were a little passive. They kind of let the other guy do their thing, maybe let him have the moment. It's not going to work in the postseason. You have to know where the ball's going. With the Cavaliers, you know what's going to happen with LeBron. With the Rockets, you know it's going to James Harden. It's not clear with the Warriors. Good news is they have a ton of options, but they're going to have to figure out exactly what they're going to do in a one-possession game in the postseason.
This is also, no disrespect to Mike Brown.
Yeah.
But I would like to see him in a crunch time situation if Steve Kerr is not going to return for the finals, we believe he's not.
Well, the one thing is the Warriors play so loose with the ball that it's not like Brad Stevens diagramming play after play. It really is a kind of, we know what we're doing on the floor. Let us do our thing. We're going to run a few different sets, but we kind of know what we're going to. So I think that Mike Brown has done a great job of being a steady hand, but I don't think that much will change when Steve Kerr comes back.
Should be very interesting. Durant took a ton of shots down the stretch when he's with the Thunder.
Yeah.
So far this year, last minute of games, he's taken 7 shots the entire season.
Well, and this is what we saw
Interesting. See how that develops.
when the Heatles first got together. That first season, it was difficult to figure out who sort of was the alpha and who was going to be the 1A.
Right.
They eventually figured it out, the next season. But
well, and a lot of it's going to come down to matchups. If they're playing the Cavaliers, I'm not going to go to Kevin Durant if LeBron's guarding him. If Steph Curry's out there and Kyrie's on him, I'm going to go with Curry. So it's going to come down to matchups as well.
one reason why perhaps the Warriors have not been tested so far in this postseason is because, let's be honest, their opponents were missing some key members of their team. I'm not just talking about the Spurs we just saw without Kawhi and Tony Parker, but also Jusuf Nurkic when they were playing Portland in the very first round. So does it take any of the shine off of this undefeated run to the finals because their opponents were hurt?
I genuinely don't think so. I think, haters are going to hate. We're going to have to come up with something to kind of, dent the Warriors a little bit and hope that there's some intrigue in the finals. But You know, the Cavaliers just lost to the Celtics after losing Isaiah Thomas. These are playoff teams. It's so easy to blink in the postseason and lose a game. The fact that they haven't let their guard down once is pretty amazing.
It's true.
Yeah, I think that's impressive, too. They just took care of business.
Exactly.
Whether you got Kawhi Leonard on the floor or not, they're winning games, they're making it look easy, and they're moving on. Something that hasn't come easy is the play of Klay Thompson, though. Are you worried about him only averaging just under 15 points per game, 39% shooting, 36 from three-point land? Should there be concern with the way Klay is playing heading into the finals?
When Kevin Durant was added to the Warriors, you know, Klay was maybe the guy viewed as the one who had the most to lose. You know, he's going to become the fourth fiddle on the team, how often he's going to get the ball. We saw during the regular season he went through similar stretches. Then he would have an explosion of, 35 points and everything was okay again. We haven't seen that during the postseason, but I don't think it's really cause for concern. I think the ball just hasn't been going in for him. You know, with Klay Thompson, he's never going to create his own offense. The ball's going to come to him. He's going to get looks. It's going to come down to whether or not he's making them or not. He's getting to his spots on the floor. The Spurs didn't do anything in particular to shut him down. He's just not knocking down the shots right now. I think that, with Klay, he's going to get his chance in the finals, and I think that will come to him.
Couldn't you argue that it's almost a good thing with his contribution? I mean, he's contributing for 11% of the Warriors scoring in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Last year in the playoffs, that number was doubled,
Right.
22%, and they don't win the championship.
Not only that, he's the ultimate decoy for any team. If you're going to have a guy space the floor, Klay Thompson is maybe the first guy you take. He's one of the greatest three-point shooters of all time. He's a catch-and-shoot guy, so you know what he's going to do. He's been helping the Warriors offense even though he hasn't been scoring.
And defensively, he makes such an impact
Yeah.
because you're able to put him on the other team's best player. Just looking forward, though, it's the NBA, so it is a business. You look at how the contracts are structured. Steph Curry's going to have to get paid, and Kevin Durant's going to have to get paid. Now, Klay Thompson is signed for several more years along with Draymond Green, but everyone else is kind of a wild card. I mean, his stock is high after this run, win or lose. Is Klay someone who may get moved?
I don't think so. I think there's going to be some interesting bluffs called, though, at a certain point. Like you said, with Durant and Curry needing to get paid. Curry's been underpaid for the last 4 years. Is it worth keeping the team together, taking a pay cut? Will these guys say for the good of the team? Durant and Curry have that sneaker money. Maybe, Anta's not paying Klay Thompson as much. So maybe those guys would take a pay cut, as the leaders of the players using kind of some of the biggest stars in the league. It's usually viewed against taking pay cuts when you're in your prime and on top of the league. But the Warriors don't have a lot of options if they want to keep these guys together. And if they win a title this year and have a great time along the way as they seem to be doing, I just don't see them breaking up and wanting to be on different teams.
I know, but that's what's tough. It's like we've seen 3 superstars together, but we really haven't seen 4 yet. And how do you get all those people paid? Something really interesting from last night, of course, after 15 seasons, 4 titles, a 6th Man of the Year award, 2 All-Star appearances, an Olympic gold medal, we may have seen Manu Ginobili's last game. Here was the Argentinian star in San Antonio last night.
Un poco de tristeza, un poco de, qué sé yo, de emoción. Así que sí, fue raro, pero lindo de vivir.
Manu, you didn't just retire in Spanish, did you, Manu?
No. No, I haven't.
Just checking.
No, I haven't.
Just checking.
A moment of levity there after losing in the playoffs, and Manu's given us a lot of great laughs over the year, that's for sure, Matt. But if this was indeed his last game, what's his legacy on the league? What does he leave on the league?
I think he goes down as one of the most unselfish superstars of all time. I mean, for him to win 4 titles and to come off the bench throughout the prime of his career, never questioning it, doing it for the good of the team. You just don't see that around the NBA anymore. You think back to someone like John Havlicek. It's been that long since there was a 6th man that was a superstar and did it, by his own choosing. Look at James Harden. He wasn't content being a 6th man in Oklahoma City. He wanted to be a superstar. He doesn't have any titles so far. Manu Ginobili has 4 of them and a Hall of Fame career to show for it. So, I think his unselfishness, not only coming off the bench, but then every 2 years he's playing international basketball for Argentina, and you see what he's like as a number 1 option. The fact that he has it in him and chose to do what was best for the Spurs, I think that's his legacy.
Manu could be done. The big what if will be what the Spurs do. What would have happened if Kawhi would have stayed healthy? Matt, 1 series down, 1 to go. We await the winner of the Cavs and Celtics, Game 4
Tonight.
Yeah.
Looking forward to it.
Thanks, Matt. All right, well, we're roughly 2 months away from the start of training camp around the NFL. Yesterday, the MMQB's Peter King revealed part 1 of his power rankings, teams 32 through 17. But what about the upper echelon of the league? Let's welcome Peter back in to give us teams 16 through 1. And Peter, New England, the top team in your preseason power rankings. Not a huge surprise, I guess, there, but If there was one weak spot on this Patriots team, what is it?
I'd say the overwhelming thing that you think about is that, as far as trying to repeat as Super Bowl champion, it's that as much as you love Jimmy Garoppolo, and the Patriots do love Jimmy Garoppolo, obviously you're going to love the guy if you're not going to take a rich trade for him. But as much as you love Jimmy Garoppolo, you have no idea what's going to happen if Tom Brady would get hurt, and whether Jimmy Garoppolo would have a good chance of winning a Super Bowl or even getting to a Super Bowl without Tom Brady.
Peter, were the Patriots number one because this is going to be a great Patriots team, or are they number one because they're the best of the crop of 32?
They're the best of the crop of 32, Maggie. And that's a good question because, as I write this morning, there's something to what Bill Polian says. For the first 35 minutes, 38 minutes of the Super Bowl, the New England Patriots looked outmanned. And, Tom Brady looked old. The Atlanta Falcons were fast, and they got the better of the New England Patriots by 28-3. And so this is no gimme that they're going to win another Super Bowl. But, my whole opinion about the Patriots is that in a 60-minute game, what just happened is they were behind with 28 minutes to go by 25 points. And they won that game fair and square. Now, they got some help along the way, but they also got some help along the way in falling behind by 25 points. So I just think this is one of those teams at one of those times in history where I don't think there is another great team in the NFL right now. And I still think the Patriots are number one until you knock them off.
Yeah, we'll see if any foil emerges to Tom Brady and Bill Belichick this season. Okay, Peter, 6 teams in your top half of your rankings did not make the playoffs last season. So maybe we're expecting a lot of turnover this year when it comes to the very top. Now, you have the Titans ranked 4th. Is that because the division is weak, or what are you seeing that others outside of Nashville maybe are not seeing?
Well, it's interesting, Maggie. Over the weekend, when I was playing with my rankings, I sent my 1 to 32 to maybe 10 to 15 people, and I asked them all, just tell me 2 or 3 things that really stick out, that if you were doing these, you would radically change, or that you think is way off.
Yeah.
And every single person said, you're out of your mind about the Titans. They're not that good. And I'm going to tell you why I disagree.
Okay.
Because how many teams in the NFL right now have the following? A good, young, mobile quarterback. Now, granted, you can't say that Marcus Mariota is a top 5 or probably even a top 10 quarterback right now. But that's why they play the games. I think he's going to be a top 10 quarterback this year. How many teams in the NFL have a tackle combination? The 2 most important positions on the offensive line. Left tackle Taylor Lewan, right tackle Jack Conklin. How many people in the NFL have a versatile running game led by a guy who's won a rushing title in DeMarco Murray, who's still got a prime year or 2 left? How many teams in the NFL right now have a pair of pass rushers? Even though they're going to play this year at 29 and 31, I think particularly Derek Morgan, Brian Arakpo, and then interior of that defense, Jarrell Casey, they are a handful to block on that front 7. So, and look, there's no question there are some weak points on the defense, and that's in the secondary. And that's where they have to hope that Adoree Jackson comes in early on, the corner from USC, their first-round draft pick, and plays great. And obviously also the deep threat that they drafted, number 5 overall, Corey Davis, comes in and plays great. That's a lot of ifs. But I just think, Maggie, every single year we see a team that makes that vault, that makes that jump. And this year, I think it's going to be the Tennessee Titans.
So Tennessee, a bit of a surprise. No one argued against the Jets being number 32, I guess, Peter. You didn't mention that in your
we covered that
research
yesterday.
there. Let's talk about the Cowboys coming in at number 7. Tony Romo out of the picture now. He's, of course, in the broadcast booth, and this is Dak Prescott's team. After such an impressive rookie season, is there any chance Prescott goes through a bit of a sophomore slump this year?
You know, I think if you play the number of games that Dak Prescott played last year, and you play at the level that he did, and you complete 67% in your first year in the NFL, and you're as serious and have the ethos and are as hardworking as Dak Prescott is, I find it hard to believe that suddenly, just because it's the second year, that he's all of a sudden going to fall to earth. I think that happens sometimes to players who either have some big Achilles heel that everybody goes to school on, or they get so full of themselves in the off season that they become different people. They become party animals or whatever. But you ask people around the Cowboys about Dak Prescott, and they say, you know, he's just a real serious guy. And so, look, I might be wrong about it. I think Dak Prescott's going to be a serious contender for MVP. And I think the Cowboys are going to win that division.
All right. Wow. Okay. We know Dak Prescott won Rookie of the Year. See if he can follow it up. Peter, you are confident that the Atlanta Falcons will be able to get over the Super Bowl heartbreak of last season. I mean, I know they have a lot of young players. Maybe they have short memories. But for the Falcons to repeat as NFC South champions and get back to the Super Bowl, what has to happen?
I think that, first of all, I think they're a little bit better team than the team that played the Patriots. Like if they had a healthy Desmond Trufant in that game, there's a very good chance the outcome's going to be different. You know, Tom Brady really picked on Jalen Collins in that game, and I think Desmond Trufant, being back from injury, new rich contract, is going to be significantly better in that secondary. And I think Tack McKinley, the pass rusher, gives them somebody on the other side of the field from Vic Beasley who can help them get to the quarterback. And Maggie, in my opinion, we in the outside world often think of, oh my God, how in the world are they going to be able to come back from this? Are you kidding me? There's nobody. They're going to be ruined for life. I mean, these are 23, 25, 26-year-old guys, you know, and I don't think they think that way. Now, you know, who knows? Maybe Matt Ryan will have some, you know, some scar for a long time on this. But I just don't see it. I just don't think players carry those kind of scars, especially such young players as the Atlanta Falcons have. And one other thing, who's the greatest player on that team? It's probably Julio Jones, the greatest player at his position. Julio Jones doesn't even watch football when he leaves the facility. He doesn't read about how, oh my God, Julio Jones, how are you ever going to be able to come back from that? That's not his world. It's not his life. And so I think that all of that is kind of an overstated part of, of a team that has a horrible loss.
Okay. I just want to go back to the Titans for a second because, you know, this is a team that you're expecting to make a big jump. We've seen other people prognosticate last year, maybe about the Tampa Bay Bucks, Jacksonville, that proved to be a total bust. But to the Bucks specifically, this was a very sexy team last year. People thought they were going to take a massive step forward. You have them ranked right now 11th. Tampa did a lot to upgrade its offense. They signed Deshaun Jackson. They drafted O.J. Howard. But it's really going to come down, I think, to Jameis. How good can this offense be and this team be? Were we perhaps picking them a year too early last season?
Well, Jameis Winston threw 18 interceptions last year. And, I just wrote it, but I forgot. I think he was about 61% completions. And really, I think what Jason Light, the general manager, did for this team in sort of buttressing the offensive talent on Jameis Winston, you're seeing O.J. Howard right there, mean, O.J. Howard, to me, could be one of the more unique weapons in the NFL. Here's a guy who runs like a 4.48, 4.5 40. He's huge. And the one thing that they didn't have in Tampa is they didn't have a separator. And I wrote about that when I wrote about this team. So right now they have two separators, Deshaun Jackson, if he can stay healthy, and he has had some injury issues, and O.J. Howard. You know, he's going to be able to separate from linebackers in coverage and safeties. You know, he'll be able to run with safeties too. So in my opinion, I think they've answered a lot of their questions right now in Tampa Bay. And I think it's all on Jameis Winston's shoulders. And I think it's very possible for them to make a big jump. The reason that I didn't have them making the jump the same way that I had Tennessee jumping is because I just think that the NFC South is a significantly better division than the AFC South is. Right now, I think that both Carolina and Atlanta are better than any team right now, any competitive, competitor in the NFC or then is in the AFC South, and that's why I like Tennessee to to be a little bit better than Tampa Bay this year.
Yeah, I mean, you could argue that even by getting rid of Brandon Cooks, I mean, even New Orleans maybe is turning their fortunes around. Perhaps every single team in that division, I think, got better over the offseason. I don't know if you can say that about the AFC South. Peter King, Peter, thank you so much. Appreciate it. 2 days in a row, Peter.
Thanks,
this
Peter.
Is just fun. Pleasure was all ours. Okay, last month, about 100 ESPN employees were laid off. At least that was the reports. It was this shakeup at the sports media conglomerate that really turned a lot of heads, especially in our industry. Of course, covering sports with a journalistically sound approach is still at the forefront. But our own John Wertheim looks at the lasting impact of the layoffs in a very unique way. Watch this.
Ask fans about the biggest moments in sports so far this year, and you'll get a range of responses. Tom Brady and the Super Bowl miracle, Sergio Garcia breaking through at Augusta. Ask sports media types about the most significant moment this year, and they may have a different type of answer. In late April, ESPN began a layoff process, divorcing more than 100 journalists from their jobs, from their stability. Yet there was a certain irony to it. When we cover sports, we handicap job loss all the time. Which coaches could and should be fired, which players should be cut. The sheer size of the vocabulary indicates how commonly we discuss this. First, the cliches. We talk of pink slips and walking papers and getting the axe, and of course there's the dreaded hot seat. There are harsh terms. Jeff Fisher should be shit-canned. Moving vans should come for less miles. Then there are the euphemisms. Will the Mets relieve Terry Collins of his duties, or will he step down? Will Mike Scioscia and the Angels part ways? Sure, pro coaches can handle the financial impact of job loss better than most. And yes, turnover is part of any competitive industry. So it'll be interesting to see how the sports media going forward covers job stability. With the ESPN layoffs still fresh, will we be so quick to call for heads? That's another euphemism. Maybe coaches and GMs and players have to do something worse than lose a few games or whiff on a draft pick or throw a pick six before we suggest they join the growing legion of the unemployed. Because it sucks.
Really hadn't thought about things that way, but speaking of ESPN, we are learning more about the breakup of the longtime morning show duo of Mike and Mike. As our own Richard Deitch is reporting, things have become frosty between the two Mikes, and their partnership may be ending sooner than expected. Mike Greenberg and Mike Golic were guests on SI Now back in March. We did 2 separate interviews with them and asked each to elaborate about their futures. Here's a look back. How are you feeling now that Mike and Mike, this long run, may be coming to an end?
It may be. I feel a combination of excited and sad. You know, there are a million decisions that are being made right now at our company, and I have some to make, and Mike has some to make, and our management has the most important ones to make. And if the end result of that is that Mike and I do split up after all of these years, which is a very real possibility, it will definitely be sad. I mean, I'm really grateful for the experience. We've had a ton of success and we've had an enormous amount of fun.
We have chemistry, and that's something that when you're dealing with multiple people, you can't really teach it. You can't really coach it. That just kind of has to come natural.
What we did together for all of these years is what we did. And if we go our separate ways, I'll do a new show and he'll do a new show. I don't think it'll be the same show without me, because it just can't be the same. The show has been half me and half him for 18 years.
Any breakup, anytime you've been together for a long time, the best thing is communication. Kind of keep the other in the loop. Not that you owe it to them, but if you've been with somebody that long, I do think you kind of owe them a heads up if things are going to change a little bit. And if you get that, great. If you don't, it can be a little disheartening if you don't.
Whatever Mike wants to do and whatever our manager wants to do, they'll work out something that'll work out well. I have no doubt. It doesn't have anything to do with what I think they should do.
Very interesting listening back after what we now know from Richard Deitch's article. Two things jump out at me. First of all, from seeing that mashup there, neither one of them really mentions their friendship. They talk about chemistry, what they've accomplished together over 18 years. Friendship wasn't one of the words they used. And listening to Mike Golic talk about being owed a little bit of a heads up, that's what kind of came out in Richard Deitch's article. And hearing him that he said that a couple months ago, this may have been going on for a while.
Yeah, one thing that I remember back to doing the interview with Mike Greenberg, because A.B. Campbell obviously did the interview with Mike Golic, she did a great job there, but one thing I remember talking to Mike about afterwards, he said, listen, the reason why we have to be coy about this, or the reason why we're not out there giving all this information, he's like, I'd like to tell you more, but the reason why I can't is because we have to be very aware that so many people behind the scenes are going to be impacted by Mike and Mike breaking up. And so when they eventually went on the air and said, this is the worst kept secret, and you had people tweeting about it and about why would they wait this long and sort of keep up this facade, and not just announce it. Mike said, listen, we have to be very cautious, and we want to be very respectful to the people who are working behind the scenes. Because Ryan, as you and I know, we're the ones who get on camera, but this show does not happen, and their show does not happen without so many people behind the scenes making it happen.
Yeah, we're talking about producers, directors, and family members who have started to speak out a little bit. A lot of people are affected by this, and we're just the face.
Yeah.
We're not the whole operation.
I'll say personally, though, I'm going to miss Mike and Mike. I grew up with them.
I mean, 18 years of listening to those guys.
Yeah.
In this business, that's an eternity.
It's
Holy
really,
cow.
it's a long run. It was a good run.
All right. Well, this was a good run, Mag. That's going to do it for
A little
this
shorter than Mike
Tuesday
and Mike's
edition.
run.
Yeah, not quite 18 years, but a good 30 minutes or so. That's it for this Tuesday edition of SI Now. We'll be back with you again tomorrow, 10:30 Eastern, of course. We're going to wrap up tonight's big Cavs-Celtics game.
Yeah, I know. We'll see what happens. Everyone around this office is expecting the Cavs to win by about 100.
Bet the house on the Cavs tonight.
That's my actually happens. Of course, you can keep it locked to SI.com for all the latest news. And please follow us on Twitter at SI Now Live. Have a great day. We'll see you tomorrow.